Hey, this is Adam Gouttierre, Vice President of Media at Hudl, and this is the Sports Business Conversations podcast from ADC Partners.
Hey, this is Dave Almy of ADC Partners, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have a connection to high school sports in some way, shape, or fashion. You're probably not playing them right now, but I'll bet you did at some point. Maybe you even have kids who play them right now. It doesn't matter, though. I mean, whatever your connection or association, you know what a big deal high school sports are to students, families, and surrounding communities. And that passion is what drives Adam Gouttierre, VP of Media for Hudl. For the uninitiated, Hudl provides video services to over 4,000 high schools across the country. I mean, they serve other sports verticals as well, but high school is definitely their wheelhouse. They provide things like coaching analysis, game streaming, video hardware, and lots of stuff like that. Millions of people watch their highlights and games on Hudl every week. And Adam is in charge of packaging up all that content and helping brands use it to reach their core audiences wherever they may be. In our conversation, we talk about Adam's journey through the early days of online advertising markets and what drew him to Hudl. We discuss the immense growth of Hudl, how the company makes high school sports accessible to brands, and his advice for what makes great storytelling content in sports. And if you hang around long enough, you'll listen to the infamous lightning round get turned back on your host. Shocking indeed. So thanks for listening in on my conversation with Adam Gouttierre, VP of Media for Hudl. Hope you enjoy.
Adam, you, I think it's fair to say, had a pretty early and significant career pivot, right? Because you started in politics before making the switch to technology and media. So can you give us, as a way to get started, what the heck happened?
Yeah,
That's a change in trajectory.
It is. Thank God I made that switch.
In retro, hindsight is 2020. You got that one.
Yeah, it was in the 90s, and I was working for a senator, and there's these things called micro enterprise loans, and they were sort of kind of new and innovative as a financial tool, and people that are living in maybe sort of areas that are unbanked. Was an interesting vehicle, and so it was kind of fun and innovative government program, if you will. And so it goes back to Burwell, Nebraska. So Nebraska, for your listeners, is in the middle of America. And
yes,
Burwell,
it is.
Nebraska. Yes.
See, not just sports business here. We get geography too.
We get geography, and Burwell, Nebraska, is in the middle of Nebraska.
So it's the middle of the middle.
It's the middle of the middle. And there's about 1,000 people in Burwell, Nebraska. And so there's this kid, this is again in the mid-90s, he was very good at building birdhouses, believe it or not. And he thought, why not? I'm going to try to sell these birdhouses on this thing called the internet.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he created, they're great. So he created like a little storefront that sold birdhouses, and he was successful. He had people from all over the globe buying birdhouses. And he needed employees, so he ended up getting almost like an army of grandmas from Burwell that would help him make birdhouses. And I thought, this is probably the coolest economic development project I could be involved with.
What an amazing story.
Yeah. So it's like, this is great. I think I'm going to follow tech. And
so you saw the economy was going to do something completely different.
Well, I don't want to say it was that brilliant, but it's like...
It was you, Adam. It was you.
It was... If this kid can sell birdhouses from a small town in the middle of nowhere, then this is exciting, right? And to think about the economic development for that town, the people who didn't have a job were now making birdhouses and selling them to people in England.
Right, and doing things like customer service and fulfillment and all of those kinds of things that go right. It's probably the quintessential idea between those micro-lending programs.
Yeah.
How to support that.
Yep.
And your experience in technology also coincides with something else that's kind of was revolutionary in a lot of ways, right? So you begin working in tech, and then there's this other growth engine that just basically ends up powering the entire internet economy, and this is advertising targeting, right? These multi-trillion-dollar companies that are so familiar with to us today really invented and kind of got their revenue started by offering a better mousetrap to brands that were trying to reach people in very, very targeted ways. So can you talk a little bit about ad targeting when that first got on your radar? Because it plays a huge role in what you do today. So, I mean, it's funny. It's like ubiquitous, but it's kind of one of those things that operates in the background of the internet that I think people sort of understand, but maybe don't.
Yeah. Yes, correct. So I went going west, young man, and ended up in the Bay Area and then Seattle, and worked at Yahoo and Microsoft.
Yeah.
And it's also the time when Google is rising, right?
Blowing up.
And Google and they were the leaders and are the leaders in terms of ad targeting. And the one thing about ad targeting is should be like content targeting. It's the same equation. Get the right content to the right user at the right time.
Right.
And actually respect that. And I think ad targeting in various forms does not respect that. And sometimes it's get as much ads to the wrong user at the wrong time, and that's not good, right?
So it becomes a quality versus a quantity play. Wrongly.
It became a quantity, and it veered away from quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is rooted in Google and performance marketing and click, right? And I think, knock on wood, ad targeting is sort of going back to, I'd like to say where content is king versus where data is king.
Yeah.
And where the experience is respected and where you think about how you engage as a brand.
Yeah. Or at least the marrying of content and data very well so that it does get presented to and just sort of brings the brand along on the ride effectively.
Absolutely. And I, with Apple and iOS and ATT sort of tracking and transparency, that was an important evolution in this regard. And you'll see this, our users will see accept or reject cookies, right? That's another good evolution. It's like, you know what? Get a relationship with your user, with your customer, and then respectfully ask when if they want to share data, and then explain to them, if you are sharing data, here's the data, and here's how we'll use it to bring the right content to the right user at the right time. And I feel we're in a much better spot here relative to, say, 5-7 years ago, where it felt like ad networks and third-party data and click was everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
We're not there yet, but we're evolving.
Well, it's amazing, too, if you can have a proposition to a brand that says we're going to deliver your message in a way that's additive to an experience versus intrusive to an experience. And that kind of brings all those different pieces together, doesn't it?
You nailed it, Dave. And that's sort of, you know this well, too, is like it's kind of the excitement and blessedness of being in sports, because there's a long track record of good innovations and how to bring a brand in the right way, right? Where they're additive, part of the journey, and even inspiring to the experience.
Well, then again, this is what they call it in the business. Let's do a little segue here because you just mentioned sports. So you're working with the Microsofts and these big ad tech engines, and you're working on that part of the business. When did Hudl first get on your radar, and what kind of made your head turn in that direction and go, oh, that's new, interesting, different, fun, creative?
Yeah.
Slash.
Yeah. So I was living in Seattle, living at Microsoft, and but still had Nebraska roots. And there was a reminder: the 6 degrees of separation in Nebraska is maybe like 2 degrees of separation, which is to my benefit or my luck. And so I had someone close in Seattle, a huge sports fan. We connected about Nebraska sports. Early investor in Hudl, and said, "Hey, you have to meet David Graff, the CEO and the founder of Hudl, who's still our CEO today." And so met him way long ago, almost 20 years ago. You could just tell, right, that a talented and a visionary person that's going to have success, but also kind of understood already what the sports sort of persona, or where there was a gap in terms of athletic departments and coaches who needed that sort of what we call the easy button.
Yeah.
And so that connection, I was blown away and just stayed in
contact. So you guys hit it off right out of the gate. Like, you was one of those people you just kind of connected with, and you had the Nebraska background, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was sports too,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of easy to connect in there, but you could tell that where David was going was next level stuff. And the part I've really grown to appreciate, and I knew early on, is Hudl's a global company. We have offices in Barcelona, London, Australia, and all along he knew that he could build this company with its foundation in Nebraska, which is exciting, right? For a fellow
Visionary in its own
Nebraskan.
right? It
Yeah,
sort of
it's like-
decentralizes the where the controls mechanisms could usually lie. Can you give, because as hard as it is for me to imagine, because I've had kids who played high school sports, can you give a high level overview of Hudl?
Yeah.
You know, its sense of scale, which I think you just touched on, given that it has international presence, and what the role that you're currently playing for the company is.
Yeah, you bet. I like to start with Hudl makes moments that count.
Yeah, okay.
And part of that is a coach, an athlete, key critical personas. There's a 3-hour game to watch, right?
Yeah.
But we bring video and data together on a hardware and software platform and make moments that count. And
Okay.
so those moments, sometimes I explain Hudl as a teaching tool, right? You're looking for those moments to help you get better,
Right.
help you prepare for the next game, help you think through who your opponent is, help you find key highlights to help you get recruited to go to the next level.
Right.
And so those moments that count, that's part of what we do at Hudl. We wake up in the morning like, oh, that athlete just had their first dunk.
Yeah.
She had her first pass.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that count. Part of the platform, the challenge and opportunity is there's a lot of different personas: the athlete, the coach,
Yeah.
the athletic director, the recruiter, the fan, the parent.
The families,
parent.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got a lot of constituencies there.
Yeah, and also the brand.
Yeah.
And so that's part of my job, is ensuring we work with strategic brands. We get their voice of the customer, how they want to connect with fans and athletes and parents, and then also work with our product team to think through, how do we evolve? How do we engage? How do we make content easy to create, easy to share, easy to experience? And if we do it right, we're bringing those brands in positive moments for those personas.
Probably safe to say that a lot of brands have been a little nervous or leery around high school sports, right? Traditionally, because it's fragmented, right? You know, it's like, what's Procter & Gamble going to do? Strike a 1,500 different high school deals? It's not that the audit isn't attractive, right? I think everybody recognizes that there's so much passion, and your parents are involved still. It's a family thing, and it's exciting, and it's young people who are forming brand connections at such a young level. But it's been hard. So how does Hudl help brands see beyond what might be considered probably a traditional sponsorship where they hang a sign in a gym, or maybe, where they're on the backs of the tickets and things like that? How does Hudl sort of help eliminate that frustration around fragmentation?
Yeah, no, it's a tricky one, and I appreciate you in this podcast, because one of the challenges is just raising awareness around high school sports and the ability to scale with it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge a strategic brand. The easy button is, I'm going to sponsor football. I'm going to sponsor professional basketball, right? That, of course. And so part of our challenge is raising awareness that, actually you can connect with 20,000 high schools. You can engage all year long. So that's challenge one. And I appreciate you let me help tell that story, right? The other thing is, to your point, Dave, is like, they assume it's just a grainy placard in left field and next to Mom's Pizza, right? It's like, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And
Mom's Pizza, though, nice shout out for Mom's Pizza there.
I love Mom's Pizza, right? And it's yes, and yes. So one of the important things that we've invested in terms of the fan experience, particularly on live stream and highlight sharing, is also investing in the brand experience. And so we have a partnership with Dolby on our live stream player, and we're bringing ad experiences, the L bar, the double box, watermarks, that are the same ad experiences those brands can contemplate on Sunday football, Saturday football, Friday Night Lights, March Madness, World Cup.
It takes the activations and the channels that they're familiar with and just applies it to an entirely new market that had previously been kind of inaccessible to them.
You nailed it, right? And showing the ad experience is a way to bridge over. The other thing that's important is, like, a lot of these, the live stream, a lot of the games are experienced on CTV, and it's like, what a great way to connect with folks in a large screen in that environment. And then the next big important thing is to land is you hit on it. It's like, these are parents and grandparents who have even more passion than they might have around the New England Patriots, believe it or not, right?
Come on now.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's right. It's like when the person that they love and they care the most about is on that TV within or in that highlight.
Yeah. It's personalized in a way that is almost hard to imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an awesome opportunity for a brand to participate smartly, to be part of that journey. And that journey, can go on to college, can potentially go on to pro.
Yeah. It's interesting that Hudl's been around for about 20 years now. And that's kind of coincided with two things. We'll start with one and we'll get to the other next. The first is the explosion in youth sports and the opportunities to play and the costs associated with playing and, I don't want to say professionalization of youth sports, but certainly there's a lot of investment and attention being paid to youth sports right now. And I've heard that market valued anywhere from $20 billion to $80 billion a year. It's gigantic. So I'm wondering, as that's grown, and you've been with Hudl for a while, how have you seen Hudl change and adjust to accommodate that growth? What kind of interest and, I don't want to say pressure, but how has that aligned with what's happening in youth sports with Hudl?
Yeah, I love that question, and it is pressure, and it's pressure from our customer.
Okay.
To evolve, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's one of Hudl's secret sauce is our customer success and customer support team, and they are the voice of the customer. And so when the coach from Nacogdoches, Texas, is calling at 5 minutes before game time, and it's like, I can't figure out how to get my Hudl to work, right? It's like, we have to solve. It could be the internet's down because there's a storm coming, right? But
Control
it's like,
Alt Delete, coach.
Yes. But when you would use the word use pressure, it's like our customers are telling us where we need to go next. And it's our job to hear them and listen to them. And we've heard them grow and we've grown with them. And I was thinking through the some of our inflection points. And we started as a football company, which is an event-based sport. Right. Stop, go, stop, go.
Yep.
And the basketball coaches started using it because they liked it, right? But it was not
more
flow. A flow sport.
Yeah.
So we need to evolve the platform to account for flow sports.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the coaches saying, "Hey, I got to send all these DVDs of my athletes to the recruiters. Can you help us solve for that?" Right? And we're like, "Yeah, we'll create highlight editing tools and we'll make it easier for athletes to create highlights so they can share to get recruited."
Right.
Another key inflection point is the cameras. And one of the things that the cameras did was more or less democratize sport within a high school.
So stop there for just 1 second. So when you say the cameras, you're talking about physical hardware cameras that people that high schools buy from Hudl, lease from Hudl, all of the above.
Yeah, it's part of their subscription is access to Hudl focus cameras.
Got it.
They're indoor, they're outdoor, portable, and they're also multifunctional, like sideline, behind home plate. And if you think about what's awesome about them, we can go a little deeper on, they have all machine learning on the edge. And when we built these cameras and started rolling out, they all had AI on the edge for a variety of reasons. But back to why those cameras, the Hudl focus cameras, are critical to what I would call the democratization of sport. A lot of times that varsity football team, they might have 17 assistant coaches. They might have 25 active parents.
Yeah.
Someone's going to film that game.
Sure.
And someone's going to stat that game. That's great. But that freshman B volleyball team, no assistant coach. Maybe their parents are active or not, right? But now that there are cameras in that gym, again, the easy button, just turn that camera on. If you want it to capture the film for those coaches and athletes, go for it, right? And so it really, truly democratized sport and also mirrored the growth of sport. So that high school volleyball team has as much access to their growth as the football varsity team.
It really speaks to this idea, and some companies are exceptional at it and other companies not so exceptional at it, but it sounds like this is kind of baked into Hudl, is really listening to the customer and what their needs are and not assuming that all the answers live within the four walls of Hudl.
Oh, yeah. You nailed it. Again, when you use the word pressure, kind of sheepishly, no, it's pressure, right? It's like we have to and imagine, and then we do a huge retro postseason with our coaches and athletes to be ready for the next upcoming season, which is 9 months from now. And our team, if we're not out and about on the game, watching how they use it, then that's a problem, right? And so that's how we live. We try to. The cool thing too is a lot of our product folks, a lot of us, we all were assistant coaches at some point or are, right? So we're usually the first ones to dog food the platform.
Yep.
And like, oh, nope, can't release this, right? We need to work on this, and this.
Yeah. Right. So I spoke about the second thing that happened, and so we had the growth of youth sports, sort of this one big thing that's happened, coincided with the launch of Hudl. The other one is, and it's kind of funny to think about, that Hudl launched the same year that Facebook opened up to the public.
Yeah, good research. Wow, yeah.
We don't kid around. You should see the people I've got working back there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're. I got the staff of interns at this place is really cranking out some good research.
They're doing,
But talk a little bit about how social media has changed this whole thing for you and media and Hudl and the way that the company has to approach, because you are generating a stupendous amount of content associated with this, and content that I think people are really desirous to share, both sort of professionally, like somebody trying to get recruited, and people personally, like, hey, grandma, you got to see this clip kind of thing. So how has social media impacted the development priorities of Hudl from where you sit on the media side?
Yeah. Wow, that's a meaty one, right? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
You got good research, or I got to give meat here, Adam.
Yeah. I think, one thing is, so there's millions and millions of important stories that some are Super Bowl-esque, Odell Beckham, and some are, again, it's that first athlete's first 5 seconds that they've ever played high school sports that they're going to share with grandma, right? And so one way we think about social media is like how to make those stories live in those environments, because our personas want to not only share those stories on Hudl, but they want to share them to other environments. And it's kind of like what's old is new again. But when one of our first integrations was Facebook, because athletes at that time were using Facebook. They're not right now. They're in those quaint old days. And so, again, listening to our customer, how do we make these integrations make sense for the next important social media channel for those athletes? Twitter, Instagram, Snap, and TikTok is the evolution. And so you always, it's tricky because every 3 or 4 years, something evolves, right? But what's cool, again, is as we allow more personas and make it easier for them to share, like parents, guess where they are? They're on Facebook, right? And that adds more complexity, but more challenge and more opportunity. Where we have to continue to invest in is allow storytelling creation easier and faster. That's what they're asking for. Get as close to real time as we can. And to a degree, while we like as an athlete to create, if Hudl can create for me, that's great, right? And that's where our investments in AI and sort of a highlight creation sort of helps create an easy button for the athletes then to share. Sorry, that it's a meaty question, but it can go a lot of different ways.
The attention span economy demands that we keep these answers to about 3 minutes. So I think that was right on the nose, Adam. Right on the nose. But you've used the word storytelling a couple of times, and it's such a critical component to all this, right? Because certainly that's what brands are seeking in dramatic and powerful ways, in which certainly sports, just given the way the sports has been growing, has become a major catalyst to that, right? So you mentioned hit an easy button is such an incredible point, but like creating a powerful story is no small thing. So can you talk a little bit about how Hudl helps the athletes and the content creators with that storytelling, so that it's more just than analyzing performance? Because it's clear that this is a huge part of the direction that Hudl is taking, is bringing brands together with athletes to showcase these powerful stories. So what are your priorities in that regard?
Yeah, it is the easy button for athletes and creators, right?
Yeah.
But that's easier than said. And one of the things that is an important investment for us right now is evolving our AI not just to be. It's like, to be blunt, if a quarterback throws a 50-yard touchdown, it's going to be a highlight, and we're going to pick that as a highlight for the quarterback, and done, right?
Yeah, attaboy.
Attaboy, right? But there are a lot of different highlights that don't show up as potentially a data point that easy.
Yeah,
and you can have
the offensive guard may have made a great block that gave the guy the time to throw the ball. But
right?
It's not necessarily what everybody's looking at.
Yeah, and to that example, that highlight is critical to that player, that parent, and that inner circle. But even like a soccer game, you can look at the scores in 0-0 and no assists, no goals, but there were like 8 nutmegs that were epic, right? And so for our platform to know that is what we're putting challenge on us in terms of going beyond just rule-based automatic highlights into more, let's just say, subjective type of highlights. And so that's one key investment, but the other one is getting that highlight to the user at the right time, right? And back to your point about speed of market, and that's just not the athlete, the parents are asking for that. And that's why those cameras are so critical, because they're able to detect action and moments, and then be able to get that to the user and then share them.
Yeah, the speed to consumer is a fascinating thing. You and I both come from a generation where, the idea of taking your film to the kiosk to have it developed and come back 2 weeks later to get your pictures is sort of this fascinating relic of a bygone idea. Whereas today, I think of my own experience, like watching professional football games. I'm waiting for the YouTube NFL summary of the game I just watched, and I'm like, come on, man, it's been 30 minutes. Why hasn't that posted yet? So the speed with which you have to work and deliver, that's no small thing. And it really kind of demands a hard look at AI and how that can facilitate that process. So, clearly AI is at the center of where the future of this thing goes. How is that being deployed now, and how do you think that's going to impact your users?
Yeah, that's a meaty question. Another one, right? But you kind of hit on it too. It's like the NFL's got about 180, maybe 16 games over a weekend, and then a Hudl's platform maybe serve close to 7,000 games on a Friday Night Lights, right? And so a lot of that is to empower that user in rural Texas or Chicago that has the same experience across the platform. Well, again, one way we think about AI, and we have for over 5 to 7 years, is how to make the processes and the workflows easier and easier for those coaches and athletes.
Yep.
So AI is already working; it's just working underneath for those workflows, and making those moments count. That's all. That's part of what the platform does and uses AI.
Right.
Just get it to them quicker. Right.
Yeah. So it's that background easy button. They don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah. But it will continue. One cool thing about, we started using AI for our brands, and when we started rolling out those cameras, we knew at some point the athletic director and the coach would say, "Hey, can you share the game with fans?" Right? And COVID kind of pushed that forward. And so, which is great, exciting. And you can imagine, right? There's grandmas, families, parents that can't go to the game because they live in a different time zone, or guess we learned or we knew that freshman B volleyball game, it's Tuesdays at 4 p.m.
Yeah, right.
People are working. Right? Yeah. So we started to, if the school wanted to live stream, they could. But because those cameras had machine learning on the edge, we taught them to find dead moments. And so it knows where to find a timeout, where to find a quarter break, where it finds a halftime break. And that is a great opportunity to bring a brand in to have a good and positive experience across the country, across over, close to 20,000 school experiences. So AI is not only important for the coach and the athlete persona, but also for how we're using it with our brand personas.
And I've heard you describe, when we're talking about brand integrations, I've heard you describe the Gatorade Fueling Greatness campaign, which struck me as like this really effective way to use the platform. And I'm wondering if you can describe that campaign and then comment on what makes brand content that will engage Hudl users. So if you're sitting down with brands and say, don't do the same old, here's how you do this effectively for this audience. So two-parter, like the Gatorade campaign, and what learnings do you share then?
Yeah. So thank you for highlighting that. It's super fun. It was part of their modern origins, and they have a lot of great athletes. And three of their athletes they were showcasing were Caitlin Clark, Jason Tatum, and Josh Allen, who all happen to be active Hudl users, creating highlights in their high school days. And so this was during the basketball season as NBA playoffs, also when WNBA was seeding up. So we had a huge amount of basketball engagement on the platform. And but what we did is we showcased their highlights from high school with their professional highlights together, and sort of what fueled greatness and why the Caitlin Clark one was the most watched branded piece of content on the platform. And
Hard to imagine.
hard to imagine, but
Not at all.
but one of the key reasons and why it was so effective is there's a bunch of athletes that are creating highlights at that moment, right? And to see Caitlin and her highlights in the same format, in the same hustle, right? The same momentum, the same engagement, the same excitement. You can't ask for something more authentic or more real or more tangible.
They are right where she was.
They're right where she was, right? And so that was a unique one, but not unique in that all the future stars, they're on Hudl right now. And it was kind of going through the NFL draft last year. Every one of those athletes all had a Hudl highlight at some point except one. And
that's amazing.
He was a punter from Australia, right? And so we didn't have him.
That's why you opened up that office in Australia. You got to make sure you get the future punters.
Get that next punter. But one of the lessons for other brands is ideate with us, right? And so that's part of what our team does. And so because we sit on 30 million stories a year, there's a lot of stories that we can bring to bear, not necessarily from it doesn't have to be a professional athlete that's on your roster, but there are stories, big man touchdowns, like you mentioned, right? And but just also stories about teams and communities. And Gatorade asked us, that's one of the things that I feel like has changed too, is like not only connect, not only identify, but identify, connect. And, Gatorade are like, hey, can we sponsor some teams that with great stories? And we did a lacrosse team. I think you're a lacrosse fan that was served an underserved.
Who's doing the research now, Gouttierre?
I'm my own intern, by the way. So
we're having an intern showdown here on the research capabilities.
But there was a great underserved lacrosse team that just started and made it to the state finals, right? And that's a great story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
And so there's so many of those stories to bring to bear that a brand can participate in.
So as we wrap up, Adam, I'm interested in your thoughts on volume from the perspective that, like you've talked about, there's 4 million games. Each game has 30 people playing in it, or whatever the average number of a team is. So much content to wade through and consider. And in this day where NIL is certainly, college athletes are getting paid, younger athletes are now sort of in the, not the crosshairs, but certainly going to have opportunities to be able to generate that. And so having a brand presence and being able to tell their own stories is incredibly important. What advice do you have for them, the creators, for if you want to engage with brands and you think about how you're going to use your content effectively? I'm wondering if there's lessons that you've seen that I'll certainly have them for brands, but I'm wondering about if there's a thinking that you have as we get ready to wrap for the creators themselves.
Yeah, there's a good question. One thing we've done, it's like, being close to our creators is critical, right?
Yeah.
And so the things about how to make the tools better, about how to make things, when you roll that up, it's how do you help us be storytellers?
Yeah.
And what has evolved too is how do you help me build my brand, right? And it one and one. Sometimes those are equal. Sometimes those have a different pivot. And a lot of times we think about those folks that go into college, like how did the Hudl highlights, how did our storytelling help you to bring followers in? So when you show up on campus, sometimes it's before you show up on campus. How should
You're
you
right.
have a
Yeah.
brand to
Yeah.
help monetize, to pay for college, right?
Right.
And stuff like that. We started this year an athlete creators program, which is identified 500 of the top athletes across all sports, all
Oh.
genders.
Yeah.
And to sort of get more even deep
Yeah.
on what they need as content creators, and what those challenge opportunities that they see that we need to build for. But it's brand building and it's storytelling, and sometimes there's a one and the same, sometimes they diverge.
Yeah. It's a brave new world, and there's a lot of content being created, and Hudl is right at the center of it. Adam Gouttierre, he's the vice president of media at Hudl. Adam, thanks for spending the time. But before I let you go, I'm going to put you in the infamous lightning round. I have a series of questions for you. Oh yeah, no, the raised eyebrows are exactly what you should have right now. This is this is the aptly named lightning round because it can be shocking, quite frankly, what's about to happen. So, Adam Gouttierre, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm nervous, but
Okay.
I agreed, right? So
You're here. There's no ducking it. So, I mean, here we go.
All right.
All right. You attended the Moscow State Institute of Foreign Relations shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union. What was the most number of vodka shots you did in a single evening?
It was probably 12, and it was with a grandma, a babushka, and she had 15.
I'm
So
sure
I lost.
I'm sure she destroyed you.
She killed me.
Those babushkas, that's just a steer
They're-
clear.
Yeah.
We talked about you started in politics. You were a Senate aide for Nebraska's Bob Kerrey. Who threw the best parties when you lived in D.C. at the time?
Is it Strom Thurmond?
That was
No.
not on my bingo card right there.
Everyone did, because when you were a starving legislative aide,
Yes.
you would take free food and free beer from
anyone.
who threw a party.
So it's all of the above is the answer to
Yep.
that question.
Yes.
All right. For high school, you attended Creighton Prep, which is a powerhouse for Nebraska State athletics. So pop quiz for you. The under-over on the number of state high school championships for football won by Creighton Prep is 25. Are you taking the under or the over?
Oh man! As a little side note, when I was there, we won the state championship all 4 years, and I contributed nothing to that.
You the spirit. You know, you
so I'm going to
contribute the
say,
spirit.
oh, you're going to jinx me. I'm going to say under.
Somewhere a Blue Jay is crying. It's 27. So it was the over. It was the over.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right.
My bad.
One more Creighton Prep question, then I'll let you go, okay? In an interview with Creighton Prep, you fondly recalled telling jokes in Latin with Father Mark Neiman and Mr. Mark Hayes. Can you share one of those Latin jokes with us right now?
It's crazy. Yeah, it is semper ubi sub ubi. And let me give you that joke to you.
Always.
Where under where.
A classic Creighton Latin joke from Adam Gouttierre, the vice president of media for Hudl. Adam, thanks
Dave,
for the time.
I got a question for
Oh,
you.
shoot.
I've created my own lightning round question for you if you're ready.
Oh, I've never had the turntables on me.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hopefully it'll be shocking. When you were 13 years old, what was your favorite team?
It's by the Boston Red Sox.
What was the first concert you attended to?
Peter Tosh.
Wow. Bucket list sporting event, or that you want to go to, or maybe you've already achieved.
I want to really go to a Premier League soccer event in England. I've been to a lot, just nature of the business that we're in, obviously, but that still escapes me. So Premier League soccer. If anybody's
All right.
listening and you get, anybody's listening wants to bring tickets, I can have a podcast host would be happy to take them.
Yeah, I mean, if you do the next podcast in our London office, I think that there could be some good things happening there.
There we go. Absolutely.
Socks up or socks down when you were a youth athlete?
Socks down. I mean, this was the 80s, so we actually sometimes just rolled them down, I believe. To go really get esoteric.
Favorite 70s sitcom?
Mork and Mindy. That's a deep cut right there.
That is a deep cut. And then the last one, your favorite Boston team?
Come on,
And
that's like
why?
asking me which is my favorite kid. I mean,
Well,
that's
it's shocking.
you can't do that. I love them all equally. I just love, these, you love the Red Sox because they struggled, right, when I was a kid. But now they're more successful now. I just love them in a different way. So they all, Adam, that's a terrible lightning round question because it's unanswerable. Somewhere you need to check your interns.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Okay, well, I understand. Wow, the lightning round got turned back on me. Oh, hey man, thanks for the time. Thanks for the opportunity to showcase a little bit about being a podcast host. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks for this fun, as you said.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sports Business Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed it, we always appreciate a subscribe, share, comment, or like. And if you're the social type, you can always follow us in all the usual places. Don't forget, past episodes are located at adcpartners.com/podcast. A quick shout out to Scott Holmes for composing our theme music. This podcast is a production of ADC Partners. All rights are reserved.